Hey, good morning. It's the Fort Worth Playboy, and welcome to Fort Worth Playboy's morning show. And we are getting started about an hour late, and my apologies for anybody that this threw off. But we're only in our third week. We're still trying to work out the kinks and what times may be best for our little broadcast. And tomorrow morning, we will be going off at 6:30 a.m. Um, Central Standard Time because that's what has to happen for everybody to be where they need to be tomorrow. And my apologies for moving around like this. We will find a good time that works for everyone as soon as possible, something that everybody can attend and the most people that can attend. And like I said before, if you want to ask questions, by all means do so, but you'll have to go to YouTube to do so, because if you type it into the replies or comments on Twitter, I can't see them. They're not quite there yet. Even if you're seeing this on Twitter, you'll have to go to YouTube, Fort Worth Playboy on YouTube, and it'll come right up. It'll be the first thing you see, because anytime you're live, it's the first thing that pops up. So let's get going. And what I always try to convey is, what are we here for? We are under the red pill umbrella in our little world here of subjects, and the red pill kind of encompasses everything in, for lack of a better word, the manosphere, meaning like men's rights, seduction, game, pickup, divorce, and basically even the dynamics between the sexes. And that's what the red pill covers. With us, we focus mostly on game, pickup, relationships, and sex. And we kind of like let the other guys that do more of the debate stuff and the larger picture, the strategy, do their thing that they're very good at. And we do the tactical stuff that you can actually read and reinforce and actually apply on the ground, kind of in a tactical manner as opposed to strategic, the big ideas. This is the stuff on the ground that gets you able and competent in moving a girl from a complete stranger to naked in your bed in a systemized manner that's reliable and repeatable, and that you can actually go, well, I can probably do this. And you'll get the girl for about 90% of the time from A to B. And that's what we try to accomplish, is giving guys those pieces and help them get it together. Because most guys, like, they'll have one or two pieces. They're good at like talking to a girl, but then they talk to her too long and she gets bored and wanders off. Or they're good at banging, but they can't ever get girls from, offline to on to in front of them and then into bed. Once they're in bed, they're like competent. So you have to figure out what pieces you're missing. Everybody has a little bit of a mix of being a natural and learned game. Most of this stuff, and kind of like in my book, Basic Training 1 and 2, a lot of this stuff used to be handed down. You're from your dad, watching him and play, if he was a bit of a player in the neighborhood, watching your uncles, watching your family, maybe like in my case, where an older guy who was pretty good with women kind of took me under his wing. I was his wingman because I was younger. Girls were attracted to me, but I didn't know what was going on, which was good for him because he could come in and, pick them up because he actually knew what was going on. And he could drive and I couldn't yet. So everybody learns from different, and they learn in different, venues too. Kind of like I always tell people, I worked for a couple of years working the door at a comedy club, which helped me pick up women immensely. And I didn't even realize how much, initially, until I realized how fast mentally I had become being around these professional comedians every night. And they just, you can't shit test a professional comedian. They're just too fast. And I didn't even know what I was picking up, but you became very good verbally and able to to respond to your basic girls shit test with lighthearted and deflected. So that's what we do is we want you to have tactics. And we're going to get into the very first one. And as I always try to remember to share the screen, and hopefully it'll be a smooth transition. Give me 1 second. And there we go. We're at maxim number 3. And so this is the third day in a row we've had maxim number 3, which Royce, who wrote Chateau Artiste, Royce, when he was writing Chateau Artiste, was a liquor distributor in Washington, D.C. So sometimes I think the numbers got repeated just because he might have been hungover. So that's one thing that you'll see is there's about 200 maxims, and a few of the numbers repeat themselves, and a few of the maxims actually repeat themselves with a different number. It's close verbiage, but I mean, like they're off like by a word. But so this is the third maxim number 3. So don't let it confuse you, because we did maxim number 3 yesterday, which was sex first, relationship later, maybe, so that was maxim number 3 also. But this one is, and that's foundational too. And this one is foundational also. And I think it's very revealing, and I hope you get it. And we'll talk about it if you don't. Maxim number 3, whenever an attractive girl tells you she hates assholes or describes her experience in the past dating assholes and claims to avoid them now, or recites a laundry list of assholey things guys do that she disapproves of, you can bet your weight in gold bricks that she needs you to be an asshole to her. When a girl tells you what she wants to avoid, what she hates, what doesn't work for her, it means that's all that's worked for her in the past. And that's what you have to key in on. I probably saw this maxim 10, 15 times before it clicked that this is actually what they're looking for. When a girl complains about a man, she's probably never been more in love, because that's all she can think about. It's what she wants. This tells you she's dated nothing but assholes. She's had sex with nothing but assholes. And asshole game is what will close the deal with her yet again. It's kind of like the people, if you go online and you online date, and you'll see no hookups. And I had like what I would imagine, what I could project would be about a 90% close rate on first night with no hookups. It's kind of like people that every time somebody comes to their door selling something, either Bibles or pots and pans or way back in the day encyclopedias or windows, they would buy them. So after a while, they realize they need to put a no soliciting sign on the door, because if somebody knocks on the door, they know they are so weak or prone to purchasing, they're going to buy something. So you find the same thing with women. They say no hookups because they know the last 8 dates they went out on, they hooked up on the first date, and then the guy ghosted or wandered off, or he wasn't the deal that she thought he was. And so after a while, they're like, okay, no hookups, which means she has a propensity and an enthusiasm for hooking up. Again, when she tells you she doesn't like assholes, you'll hear this quite often, because asshole game works like no other. It's not pretty. People don't necessarily like that it works. Women don't like that it works. Guys don't like necessarily, especially nicer guys, don't like doing it if they can avoid it. But again, it works like a charm, and it works when nothing else will work as well. So whenever a girl does tell you how much she hates assholes, she's just go, give me an idea of like some of the assholey things, your husband did, and just know that when you hear that, no matter how severe his asshole acts were, you're going to have to top that. If he was a 9 out of 10, you're going to have to be a 10. If he was a 10, you're probably going to have to be an 11 to keep her focus. So just know what you're biting off when you go into it. So, because it's almost like a drug for women, being an asshole, they need a little bit more each time to get that same dopamine hit that locks them in on you. So just know that. And again, even asshole game is just sometimes just teasing, being lighthearted, not taking them serious, amuse mastery, just some disappearances, not being around, being inconsistent with her. They love it. It doesn't make sense to us. It's all the kinds of things that make men crazy and not trust a woman. But when you flip it, it works on all their pleasure receptors. And that's all you need to know, because they truly enjoy it. And so that's what you have to look at. Now, there's always lines to be drawn, nothing illegal, nothing to get you in jail, nothing that's physically harmful. But you want to keep her engaged. And for lack of a better word, anytime I ever say entertain, guys get all kind of like, I'm not a monkey. But girls want to laugh, they want to be engaged, and most men, the vast majority of men are boring, and like they're like watching paint dry when you're around them. And you've been around they might say 3 words a year. That's the majority of men. You don't realize it because hopefully if you're kind of more dynamic guy, more involved, you're around other dynamic men. But most men, they say like 3 words a year, and alcohol is their best friend. It's just the way it is. So when you're interesting and entertaining and engaged and not really that interested in her, she's going to chase you. She's going to chase you hard too. So maxim number 3, whenever an attractive girl tells you she hates assholes or describes her experience in the past dating assholes, again, she's telling you what she likes, and claims to avoid them now, or recites a laundry list of assholey things guys do that she disapproves of, you can bet your weight in gold bricks that she needs you to be an asshole to her. And that's what she will really appreciate, is when you deliver. So that's maxim number 3. And let's see what else we got going on this morning. I've lost my ability to run a computer, apparently. And if you have any questions, by all means, of course, I showed up, at a different time. Oh, and by the way, I do have a manual that is the guide to asshole game. And it was written, I took all of Chateau Hartis's best articles on running asshole game, and he had like a 3-day series and on asshole game, and just all the different, God, there's probably like 20 or 30 in there. And I just put the best of the asshole game. And really, you learn through the stories of applying asshole game, because it's not that natural to a lot of guys, a lot of nice guys, but we kind of couch it in ways that you can learn to actually apply it and not feel bad, or, you can do it naturally and get good at it. And the girl will respond well. If you have a high sex drive and meet up with a girl with a high sex drive, don't fuck it up by overthinking. Just enjoy the ride. Again, this is for guys that are kind of in our world, because most guys aren't really interested in sex. They kind of begrudgingly deal with it, because it'd be one of those things that it's not that they're gay, it's that they're not that interested. They'd rather be hunting or fishing or working on their car or drinking or smoking pot. These are things that most guys enjoy. Girls are kind of like a secondary, third, fourth class thing. A necessary evil is kind of necessary. They'll tend to be married, but they'll tend to like stay at home, have a high school girlfriend, get married as soon as they can out of high school, because they know they don't want to like date around. They don't want to be chasing ass. It's not interesting. All they want to do is get married, get that checked off, so they can go to work, make money, and pursue their hobbies and get high and get drunk. That's it. That's it. So if you do have a high sex drive, you have to recognize that there's not a lot of girls that are going to be able to be interested. They almost all will do it for 3 months or 6 months, whatever it takes to lock you in. But that's why we always tell guys, especially if you have the time to date for an extended amount of time, to kind of weed out the girls that are at about a year are going to go, well, they usually won't back off until you're married. But a lot of them just can't keep up the what would you say, the mask of being high sex drive for more than 6 months or a year. They're just not that interested. And like Bunny's the best person to talk with, and she puts this in there, is girls' natural is they'll give the guy about 3 to 6 months of high sex drive to get him locked in. Then they'll tab it down, because most dudes do back off. I mean, because again, most guys are not high sex drive, but they'll back off once, twice a week, whatever. And then she will kick it up again when she wants to have a baby. So those first 10 years of marriage, at about 2 years, she kicks it up. And then there's usually a 2-year gap in between children, maybe a little bit less sometimes. And then she'll kick it up again when she wants to have the next baby. And then after that, she starts tapering it off. And a lot of girls, it's really kind of scary. You'll hear late 30s, early 40s talking about they don't have sex anymore and they're just fine. So, and again, a lot of times it's not that they don't want to have sex. They don't want to have sex with the men that would have sex with them. So, you're always getting misinformation or disinformation from women. So you kind of have to read between the lines and know what they really mean. But if you have a high sex drive, you actually you find a girl that has a high sex drive and keeps it, and it's actually true to life, that's her thing. Don't think about it too much. Just consider yourself, you won the lottery, because getting people that can mesh up, kind of like two low sex drive people, they mesh up and they need to be happy about that. And I think it's probably more common than two high sex drive people meeting up, because there's fewer of them. There's probably more low sex drive. But again, don't overthink it. Don't worry. It's kind of like one of those things. If you got this girl that's like great, and you start going, well, how did she become so good? Probably best that you just don't worry about it. Just kind of like let it be. It's one of those trade-offs. You're like, she's very talented. I don't need to know exactly how she became so talented at what she does. That's the trade-off. That's just an example. And let's see what else we have. Signs. She's had lots of cocks. And I've got like 3 or 4 of these tweets. This is probably one of the shorter ones I've written. College, because there's no place that a girl is going to have more freedom, some anonymity, but most girls go away to school to get away from their parents, get away from friends. I mean, it's interesting. If you talk to a girl and like she's new at a college, and you're like, well, do any of your other friends come here? And she'll be like, no, thank God. And so a lot of them want to experiment with anybody without anybody reporting back home, like she's actually, went off the rails. So it is truly that first year to first 3 years sometimes will be their party experimentation years. And that's, it's a balance of, because they also start putting on that weight from the first party cycle, the first year where they come back like an extra 30, 50 pounds overweight. So college is going to happen. It's a lot different than a girl that gets out of high school and immediately goes to work. There's a lot less opportunity than having 24 hours a day at her own beck and call and surrounded by other horny dudes. Travel, anytime girls do a lot of travel, especially like solo travel, you can just know that it's a cockfighting contest wherever she was. Sluts love anonymity. Business travel, same thing. Girls hit the ground. They're surrounded by, tends to be more alpha type guys, or like business consultants, traveling businessmen, traveling salesmen. It's who she's around, and anonymity and opportunity. In lots of hotel bars, major city versus small town. In a small town with girls, they have to be super conscious of their reputation. Everybody knows everybody. It's very easy to ruin your reputation in a small town, which is one of the reasons that girls move to a big town. And sometimes they'll tend to travel, like Nashville right now is like the big one, where girls will travel on the weekends, do that 3-day weekend, and slut it up and then go back home and hopefully not anyone saw them what they were doing. Any male dominated industry like law, we always say law is the ideal one because it's so adversarial. Women tend to become more masculine just being in there. And they're also surrounded by aggressive men. And a lot of them tend to be more alpha than beta. Not all, but you're going to have one or two more than you would in something like a bunch of hairdressers. It's just nothing against hairdressers, but that's the way it is. If you have 10 attorneys, you'll probably have one or two alphas on the outside. With hairdressers, you might have 50 and like one guy that's just cleaning up, which makes, they can and they will. But again, there's fewer of them. In the military, mostly it's because a 3 becomes a 7 or 8 due to scarcity. And that's one of the things. There's just so many men compared to the number of women that even a 3, and also, if you're deployed, what looks like hamburger on the first day of deployment looks like steak on the last day because you've been so deprived or so cut off. Bartenders, again, they're kind of selling their sexuality. They know how to manage men, kind of like strippers. They know how to manage men. And so you're going to be dealing with a pro. She knows how to move a guy and get the money out of his wallet by sexual innuendo. And she knows how to manipulate you too. It's a good and a bad thing. You're with a pro, but you're also with a pro that knows how to manipulate you. Flight attendants, lots of travel surrounding that first class section with some heavy hitters, pilots, all these guys that kind of know the lay of the land, and they're around these guys all the time, anonymous and in hotels. Single past for early 20s. And this is something that I kind of keyed in on the other day. Was one of the guys on Twitter has been dating girls 30 and older. And most of, these are not divorced girls. These are girls that have been unmarried their entire life in early 30s, never married, no kids. The difference in their experience between a 22-year-old girl and a 32-year-old is like the Grand Canyon. A girl that's 32 has had 10 years of random dick riding. And I can only imagine what the number, I'd hate to throw a number out, but you can imagine if you're looking at realistically, and we're not talking about like what girls tell you or what you would like to believe, you're looking at like 30, 40, 50, 100 men, because there's so much random stuff between boyfriends, the 2 or 3 boyfriends she's had for 2 years each. That gives you 4 years of random dick riding, in 10 years. It's just so many guys and so many, for lack of a better phrase, bad experiences that they become experts at bad experiences. You're dealing with girls that have had an extra 10 years of this, mind trash. It's going to be nearly impossible for them to not be damaged by that. So that's what you have to look at. Girls that are single, past early 20s, and especially never married, no kids, the damage just starts racking up. It's just kind of like, if anybody's like been watching Masters of the Air, they can take a lot of hits and keep flying, but they're still damaged. And once it lands, it may not be able to fly again. So you have to weigh that. A girl that's 30 and never been married, no kids, I don't care how many boyfriends she's had for how long, is going to have a vast amount of sexual experience with randoms over time. Multiple boyfriends, multiple marriages. That's just something due to time. And again, you kind of have to trade off. At about 35, past 35, 40, girls really kind of like give up worrying about what other people think. So the total number of bodies just goes out the window. It becomes less of an issue. Let's see. Ren says there's this big 6'4" guy in the gym whose wife gave me some hints. I'm in a new town now, but I'll be rejoining that gym next month. I'm 19. I really don't know if this is worth it or not. Your views. Now, married women are not worth it. You're walking out to your car and blam, you're dead. That's the problem. There's so many single women. And again, we're talking about married, like living with her husband. If a girl's going through a divorce and they live separately and it's just not been finalized, that's a little bit different. They're kind of like already on the market, but they aren't officially single. But if you're talking about a woman who's like working out with her husband, why would you do that to yourself? It's just insanity, because guys get killed every day by a disgruntled husband that they've been fucking around with the wife. You just don't always see it because it's local news. But every day some dude's walking out to his car, gets popped, and you're gone. And so it's not worth it. So you always kind of have to consider that the married women are, especially for players, you're going to go through hundreds, if not thousands, of women in your lifetime. And there's many more single, divorced, on their way to being single girls. Then you can leave the married ones up to their husbands, or to the guys that don't mind, becoming a corpse at the age of 35. So that's a real deal. I always say avoid the married women. It's just not worth the trade-off because there's so many single women available. It's just insanity. Always weigh that. You are going to probably get shot, and that's just the trade-off. But that is a horrible way to kind of end this thing out. So let's see if we got anything else going on today. Just keep in mind, foundational, sex loves speed. Attraction has an expiration date, meaning if a girl is interested in you, you have a temporary window to take action. If you don't make a move fast, she will go cold. Yes, I misread him. Now I'm embarrassed. Mike's really cuter. My husband's back in town, that sort of thing. Now I'm embarrassed. Strike while the pussy is hot. Again, just like business deals, the longer it goes, the less chance it is that it will close. And it's the same thing with women. You need to respect the momentum and move things along. Like with the online dating, we say online dating, 2 or 3, 4 texts back and forth, get her number, get her off the app. You get her onto the phone, open her, little flirty banner, set up a time and a place to meet. She gets in front of you, you move her from stranger to in your bed and naked that night. We have a 1-date system and a 2-date system. There's no 3-date system. So that is speed. Again, you got to move them along, because every time, the longer you talk and the longer you talk before you fuck, the more likely is you'll say something that puts her off. She'll be distracted by some dude. An ex will show back up. Anything, because before they're fucking you, they're looking for a reason to not fuck you. They're looking for a red flag from you that says this is a bad idea. Then after you start fucking regularly, she has to justify her decision. So even the most fucked up things you do, she sees it as a good thing, because she's going to convince herself that choosing you and having sex with you was a good idea, even if it wasn't. So that's how it's a black and white change in direction, and why, you can still fuck it up afterwards, but she's going to give you far more grace and rope to hang yourself after you guys start having sex as is before. If before she's trying to keep her numbers down, she's trying not to make mistakes, she's trying not to fuck a beta, she's trying not to get pregnant by a loser. And so she's going, anything you say or do that could throw her off, she's going to use that as like ghost. And there's always a chance of an ex showing back up. And that happens quite a bit when a girl disappears. But just know that attraction has an expiration date. You want to move them forward. That's why you'll have girls that are super interested in you one week, then the next week, you go to like hit them and they act like they don't even know who you are. It's that flat effect. Well, between then and because you drug your feet, her ex-boyfriend or ex-husband or some parolee just got out and got back into her DMs, and now she's like she's gone off in a different direction. You missed your opportunity. So strike while the iron is hot. If you guys like this, by all means, like, share, subscribe, and I will be back. And if you have questions, let me know for tomorrow morning at 6:30 a.m. right here on Twitter and on YouTube, on Fort Worth Playboy's YouTube channel. And I hope you guys got something out of this. And I appreciate your time. It's very valuable. And I understand that. And I try to deliver value to you, things that you can actually apply today and move you forward. And I hope you guys have a great day. Talk to you later.